Okay, right? Being able to max airstream, not get caught by the Thunder Wave. Of course, the max airstream, you know, also sets up the partner. The partner could get Thunder Waved and take away those boosts, so a lot going on. But I really do like, I'll be honest, I like Thunder Wave a little bit more over Scary Face now. I like that Scary Face has that like really instant impact in a number of turns, but you know, the full paralysis chance is absolutely nasty, and yeah, this Zapdos is coming to play.
So let's start the top cut here with Jean-Marc Hebert and Isabel Lee. Isabel, the #1 overall seed in the tournament, was 7-0 yesterday. Down a game, and if she's going to want to move on to top 4, she's going to have to show why she was the #1 player.
The immediate question is, how do you deal with this Zapdos, right? And this Zapdos is about to get a lot of protection from its friend Grimmsnarl over on Jean-Marc's side of the field. The Zacian definitely more aggressive as far as things go, but what does it really have to hit that, you know, that Zapdos as nicely as possible? But Grimmsnarl not even setting up any defenses, just going to use kind of Isabel's strategy against her a little bit with the Thunder Wave immediately connecting.
Yeah, you might not need Reflect if you can just get a paralysis. So the light screen from Isabel's Grimmsnarl will help against those special attacks that are coming from the Zapdos. No paralysis here, as Behemoth Blade will be targeting into the Zapdos slot. So it's not Dynamax, so it does not get double damage, but that's how strong that Zacian is. It did over 50% to Zapdos.
Not very effective. Okay, that looks plenty effective to me, Joe, because it's a 2-hit knockout on the Zapdos. And Zacian not getting paralyzed there, really, really big. I was wondering for a moment if maybe the Grimmsnarl was going to be a focal point, because now we're in this awkward staggered screen situation. If the game goes long, you obviously want your screens up later in the game. But getting that light screen up, really, really important. The Zapdos is the only offensive threat, and then being able to set up that light screen and prevent that, really, really important. Of course, the light screen is also going to work very nicely against the Kyogre.
Yep, Zapdos switching out into the Kyogre slot here, so the rain will be set up thanks to that Drizzle ability. Now Jean-Marc's Grimmsnarl will click the Reflect, which is going to mitigate the damage from physical attacks for the next 5 to 8 turns, but we're pretty sure it's 8 if he's holding, because most of the Grimmsnarls are holding light clay. Behemoth Blade goes into the Kyogre switching, though. That is more what I would expect from a not very effective attack than what we saw in the previous one. And then Spirit Break from Isabel's Grimmsnarl into the opposing one is super effective, doesn't do, you know, maybe around 40% damage, so it is not a 2-hit KO.
I quite like that from Isabel, actually, and maybe people will be wondering why not the second screen, but you don't need Reflect right now, so get some damage down, soften up that Grimmsnarl, because then you're going to be in a position, right, where you can easily knock that Grimmsnarl out, even through the Reflect. This Thunder Wave is definitely the play here on Kyogre, and Zacian just isn't getting caught by the paralysis, so just being able to attack every single turn, working out real nicely for Isabel, as the Kyogre is now slower than the Zacian after that Thunder Wave has been exchanged.
And there still is chance that Kyogre could get hit with a paralysis on this turn. So Jean-Marc is going to respond with a Spirit Break of his own. That actually did a lot more damage to Isabel, so I wonder how these two Grimmsnarls are trained. Origin Pulse does connect on both of Isabel's Pokemon. That will knock out the Grimmsnarl, and that does a little bit of damage to the Zacian there. So both of these trainers have broken through paralysis every time.
Yep, paralysis just not being a factor in this game is kind of a fair and honest way to play Pokemon. And the Rillaboom does come through for Isabel, so I do like this. I think this is the perfect position for it to be in. Of course, the Reflect is in play. Do have to worry about that, but you've kind of got the tools right now to bust through it, right? You've got the grassy terrain, you've got the Kyogre low enough that it doesn't matter, and it's not going to be able to take that hit even with the Reflect. So this could be really nasty. And of course, don't forget, we've got the priority fun to play around with. Rillaboom, though, not going for the Grassy Glide this turn, just making sure that Grimmsnarl is dealt with. Zacian finally paralyzed, though.
Yep, finally a paralysis, so no more damage besides the fake out from Isabel's end. Origin Pulse connecting on to both of her Pokemon, but because of the light screen, Zacian's able to hang on. Now we're going to have some grassy terrain recoveries for the next couple of turns. I also do want to touch back on the previous turn where the Spirit Break did more damage because Isabel did not set up Reflect on her end, so that was why it was significantly more damage.
And that lack of Reflect could come back to be a little bit haunting later in the game, right? I think they've both only used one screen, and looking across the team, right, like the Reflect is providing such good value against the Rillaboom and the Zacian. Of course, there is the option for that Kyogre to come in, but the Grassy Glide just taking down that Kyogre. Of course, Grassy Glide also priority, so if there was, of course, a Prankster move from the Grimmsnarl, it's not going to be, as we get that confirmation after this Behemoth Blade lands. And this is a double knockout for Isabel right here. The Grimmsnarl easily fell through that Reflect.
Yeah, so that was a pretty strong turn for Isabel there, obviously taking 2 KOs, and now Jean-Marc is down to his final to Pokemon. The Zapdos, who is already currently under half HP, and then whoever the remaining one, you would assume it would be the Zacian here. Zapdos is the only one that can, and there's the confirmation. Zapdos is already dangerously low, but it's the only one that can really be his Dynamax option.
Neither trainer going for the Dynamax here, very, very important to note. Of course, the Intrepid Sword boost, it's not being really dealt with. Neither trainer bringing Incineroar to this matchup. That's something that I thought would be, it's just a staple pivot, and I'm glad they both went for something a little bit more unique. So proving me wrong has worked out really, really nicely here. Of course, you have to Dynamax now, right? You're down to your last two. You need as much health in the pool as possible. And this Rillaboom's kind of done its job. So in my mind, it's kind of all on the Kyogre for Isabel, right? The Kyogre has to do all of the work, and facing down against the Dynamax Zapdos is going to be a problem. That said, it's nice and low, could be in a really good position, and the threat of paralysis is just gone.
So we are also going to have a matching Dynamax. I was wondering if Isabel was going to Dynamax the Rillaboom on this turn or save it for her fourth Pokemon Instead, it's the G-Max Rillaboom.
I think you absolutely have to, right, to be able to take that Max Airstream, because, you know, the Kyogre's going to be able to come in and do a lot of work. You can't match the Max Airstreams, though, and that's where I think Jean-Marc could run away with this, right, is, you know, no dealing with paralysis. He's just able to start attacking right now, and this Behemoth Blade is going to be very, very impactful. Just taking out the Zacian just allows this Zapdos to focus on this Rillaboom. Does the Rillaboom have anything that can hit the Zapdos really well? I don't think so, and yeah, it's going to start stacking up Max Airstreams now.
Yep, so that's super effective, but remember that light screen all the way back in turn one is still in effect, so that's what helps this G-Max Rillaboom tank that hit so well. So now all that's left is the attack from Rillaboom, and it's actually a Max Quake, not even targeting the Zapdos, because the Max Quake into Zacian will bring it down to under half, and it'll also give you a special defense buff.
And that special defense buff is going to be important, right? The focal point right now is, of course, this Zapdos. What would have been, you know, preferred, I think, is the Kyogre getting the special defense buff. You have to be careful, though. The recovery is going to make some of these knockouts really tricky to get to. My big concern, I think, if you're Isabel, is that this Zapdos is going to be going so fast, and you don't have like a really easy answer from the Kyogre. And we saw yesterday, of course, she does have access to, I mean, yesterday, the Life Orb was the item. We know that, right? We know that it carries Water Spout, and so you can't guarantee that Water Spout right now. I think you're really hoping that, you know, maybe you can weave in a special defense boost somewhere in there, but you can't just let these Max Airstreams hit. This Zapdos just needs to target correctly, and Jean-Marc will have this, but one mistake, and Isabel could easily punish this.
Zacian actually going for the Behemoth Blade into the Rillaboom because he's Dynamax, that's double damage. No Reflect set up earlier is going to pay off for Jean-Marc, as that will take down the Rillaboom, and now it is just Kyogre against a Dynamax Zapdos, which is not a position that you want to be in. Max Lightning into the Kyogre brings it down to about half of its HP, and now if you did click Water Spout, you're going to have diminished value on that because you're only at half HP instead of full HP there. So that's a great turn for Jean-Marc, but the Ice Beam into Zapdos is not enough. Even with a Life Orb boost, Zapdos hangs on.
Yeah, being able to Dynamax that Zapdos late in the game is so important, and Jean-Marc taking that out earlier, knowing that you could still Dynamax it at half health, absolutely huge here. I think Isabel did the best that she could in the situation, but the big punish is not getting set up that Reflect early. Yes, I do really like being able to throw out Thunder Waves, but they just weren't impactful enough. So this set, unfortunately, already over, and Isabel failed at the first hurdle. A fantastic run, but